I used to live with my parents. Not because I was lazy or couldn't take care of myself. I had a steady remote job that paid my bills and let me save a little each month. But in my dad's eyes, if you weren't sweating on a construction site for 10 hours a day, you weren't really working. At first, it was small jabs at dinner. Must be nice to play on the computer all day. How many cartoons did you watch while pretending to work? I'd laugh it off to keep the peace, but it slowly turned into a nightly roast session. My mom would even pile on, comparing me to my cousin Tyler, the loud, braggy salesman who never shut up about his commissions. I tried to tell myself they just didn't understand remote work. But it wasn't fine. Every single day felt heavier. Dad would crack open a beer after work and immediately start in. You're still here? Don't you ever go out? You won't meet a nice girl staring at a screen. If I didn't let you stay rent-free, you'd be on the street. That last one stung, because I had been quietly helping. Every month, I set a few $100s toward bills. It wasn't called rent, but it added up. The breaking point came one Sunday night. After dinner, I was scrolling on my phone when Dad slammed his hand on the table hard enough to rattle the silverware. Starting next month, you'll pay to live here. If you want to play grown-up, then pay like one. Something in me just switched off. I smiled, said, sure, no problem. And later that night, I packed my car. Laptop, clothes, guitar, keepsakes. No argument. No drama. I just left. I rented a cheap Airbnb, and for the first time in years, I woke up without Dad yelling at the dog or Mom banging pots. It was quiet. Peaceful. That lasted about a week. Then Mom texted, the mortgage is due. Where are you? Not. Are you okay? Not. We miss you. Just the mortgage. 5 minutes later. Luke, answer me. Your father is furious. I laughed. Of course he was furious. Not because I left, but because I didn't beg to stay. Then Dad texted, you think you can just walk out? You still live under my roof. You help pay for my roof. Don't make me take legal action. Legal action? Against me? The guy who'd been quietly paying for years? I ignored it. A few days later, Mom called. We can't keep pulling from savings. Your brother already said no. You have to do your part, Luke. If we lose the house, it'll be on your conscience. On my conscience. Not theirs. Not the golden child brother who never paid a dime. No, it was me, the Freeloader, who had been keeping the place afloat. I still didn't cave. That's when the texts turned manipulative. Dad's blood pressure is up. You're worrying him sick. We raised you better than this. You'll never make it on your own. Wire the money by Friday. Then came the kicker. I woke up one morning to a bank alert. $1,000 withdrawn. By my parents. They had access to my account because a year earlier, Dad convinced me to link it for convenience. And now, without asking, they'd just taken it. I called Mom immediately. Did you take money from my account? Well, yes. We couldn't risk missing the payment. You've always been so responsible, Luke. We knew you'd understand. Understand? They stole from me and called it family helping family. That was the moment everything changed. This wasn't guilt-tripping anymore. This was theft. I cut off their access, changed passwords, and started compiling evidence. Bank records, transfer history, texts, voicemails, proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't freeloading. But my parents weren't done. They demanded a family meeting. Against my better judgment, I went. The second I sat down, Dad launched in. You've embarrassed us. The neighbors ask where you are. Do you know what you've done to this family? I stayed calm. Do you know how it feels to be mocked in your own home every single night? To be told you don't have a real job while paying your share? He turned red. We were motivating you. I laughed. You stole from me. Mom gasped. Don't use that word. We took what you were supposed to give us. I realized then I could never win. To them, I'd always be the kid under their roof, no matter how much I paid. So I walked out. For good this time. What they didn't know was that I had options. I spoke with a financial advisor and a lawyer. Turns out, because my payments went directly toward the mortgage, I might actually have a claim to a share of the equity. That word, equity, flipped everything upside down. For years, Dad's weapon had been, my roof, my rules. But if my contributions made me a co-owner in the eyes of the law, maybe it wasn't just his roof anymore. Meanwhile, my life outside the house took off. I signed a lease on a tiny studio apartment. My company promoted me. I started going to the gym, making friends, even going out on the occasional date. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And then came Easter. My parents invited me, probably thinking I'd show up with a check. Instead, I showed up with a folder of documents. Halfway through dinner, Dad leaned back and said, "Now that you're here, we should talk about the house." I set my fork down. "Yes, we should." I slid the spreadsheet across the table. "This is how much I've contributed over the last 3 years." Mom's eyes went wide. Dad blustered, "That's not the point." "It is the point," I cut in. "Because my advisor says these payments could entitle me to a portion of the equity." The room went silent. My brother stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Dad's face turned purple. "You wouldn't dare." I met his gaze. "I would. And if you keep taking money from me or demanding payments, I'll take this to a judge." Then I dropped one last paper on the table, a certified letter from my lawyer outlining exactly that. And I walked out. After that, the tone of their messages changed fast. No more threats. No more demands. Just desperate attempts to talk it out. My lawyer called a couple weeks later. "They've agreed to a settlement. No more unauthorized withdrawals. No more demands. They'll put it in writing that your contributions went toward the mortgage. In exchange, you won't pursue a partition claim." It was everything I wanted: proof, respect, boundaries. But here's the twist. Without my money, they couldn't keep the house afloat. A month later, my brother told me Dad had put it up for sale. "They're furious," he said. "Mom's been crying for days." I didn't celebrate, but I didn't apologize either. For years, they made me feel like a freeloader when I was the one holding it together. They mocked my job, mocked me, then stole from me. When the house finally sold, Dad sent me one last text. "You got what you wanted. I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a moment, then typed back, "I didn't want the house. I wanted respect." He never replied. Now, I sit on the balcony of my apartment at night, watching the city lights. My life is finally mine. No more "my roof, my rules," because it's my roof now. My rules. And for the first time in my life, I'm free.